All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Good Old Hockey Podcast, Galli. This is episode number 18. Our podcast can now buy lottery tickets if you did it. I guess only 18 episodes, but you know what I mean. 18 episodes, damn. It's pretty much, we've been on a weekly basis, so we're around 18 weeks into the hockey season. Before we get into that, though, and what we've got for you guys this week, we got the end of the NFL season. Which I'm always excited for. One, it's a fun time just to watch Super Bowl and everything, but that also means that NHL playoffs are just that much closer. So, Galli, how was your Super Bowl experience? What'd you do?
Super Bowl was pretty good. Hosted a little thing at my house. Did a lot of cooking on Saturday.
Nice.
Made some buffalo chicken dip, some homemade spicy chili, cornbread, guac.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was a kick-ass time. Had about 15-ish people over here and watched the 49ers lose in OT. It was a decent game. I thought the first half was extremely slow. Like I fell asleep like first quarter. Not
Did you actually?
Yeah, I was just so full, and I was so full because I was eating all day and drinking a little bit. But yeah, man, I mean the start of the game was just so fucking boring. Just 3 and outs. It was just a big tactical field position sort of game. But yeah, I mean it was a good weekend overall. Friday night went out a little bit. Didn't have a game on Sunday like I usually do, but
That's nice.
yeah, besides that, it was a good Super Bowl Sunday. Pretty successful event I threw at my house. But
Nice.
yeah, I mean, how was your Super Bowl? I saw some clips of some 49ers fans getting a little upset.
Yeah, so I talked with Zach Voisin of In the End Zone, and he was wanting to film his dad for each quarter because he went back home. So he was filming his dad's reaction, and I was like, we got to get a Cody cam going because that man is very stressed when he plays, and it's just funny to watch. My heart does go out to him, though, if he's listening. It was a heartbreaking loss for the Niners. I know they couldn't get past the Chiefs in 2019, and yet again, they blow a 10-point lead. But overall, I thought it was a fun game to watch. And honestly, if you're just a fan of football or a fan of sports in general, I thought it was, at least the ending was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You could say the Niners choke, but I mean, Patrick Mahomes is just, I think, different, next level. It's not like he played an amazing game at all. But if you're the Niners, you cannot leave a team like the Chiefs or Patrick Mahomes in the race for that long. You got to take advantage. Just like hockey, you can't let the Boston Bruins stay close in a tight game. You got to close them out when you can, especially committing all those turnovers that the Chiefs did. But
yeah, 100%. It was pretty crazy. It almost went into double overtime. That would have been cool to see, but
that would have.
I saw some Niners staff and their coaches and players were a little upset because they're like, we didn't know the overtime rules, which I feel like if the fans do, then maybe the coaching staff should. But
yeah, if you don't know the overtime rules, maybe you should probably go study those because
because there's new ones this year, you know.
Yeah, no, that is fair, but also at the same time, like that's just not a good excuse to say, "Oh, I didn't know the rules." It's like, well, you had all year to learn, and now you're complaining in the Super Bowl of all games that you didn't know how. But
yeah, dude, it was the Taylor Swift Bowl too. They're showing Taylor Swift quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And Ice Spice, and my favorite part was Blake Lively, but she's awesome. But yeah, I mean, honestly, from an honest perspective, I get people can't stand seeing her, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't really give a shit. I think it's smart by the NFL to keep pushing her and doing that. It brings a new crowd, and I feel like this Super Bowl was the most paid attention to ever, even by girls.
100%. No, I see what they're doing. I'll say no comment on that though. I'm not the biggest fan of showing Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
just because they've overdone it. Where I'm okay, this is ridiculous. It's not as much about these players that are been working their whole lives and sacrificing their bodies for game after game, let alone in Super Bowl. It is smart by the NFL's perspective. I think this as an example, and even like what the NHL did a little bit with their celebrities.
Yeah.
With the All-Star game. Like I feel like leagues are gonna start really trying to draw in celebrities and highlight celebrities because it totally brings in a new crowd. That's like the perfect way in today's world with how much like stardom people get on like social media and just all over the place. Like if you're gonna get like a prominent celebrity in your game in your arena or dating one of your players, like I think leagues are gonna jump all over that.
Oh yeah.
I mean shit, like the Calgary Flames, Tate McRae, you know, like when have they ever gotten the spotlight? But like she goes to one game and people start losing their shit. NHL is posting about it. Next thing you know, she's an all-star captain. That's like, what the fuck? I mean, I think the NHL did exactly what they kind of used with the NFL as an example. I mean, they were like, look at what Taylor Swift's doing to the league. We can do this with, you know, Bieber and Tate McRae, I guess. But I think this is going to continue with the MLB, the NBA. I think we're going to see a lot more celebrities showing up in the spotlight because one, I mean, these celebrities get, you know, free screen time, publicity, probably a good chunk of money too.
Oh yeah.
But then the leagues get new followers, and like you said, I mean, I feel like a lot of people paid attention to the Super Bowl for that Taylor Swift factor.
Yeah, and like whatever you want to call it, if it's scripted or not. I mean, I think there's a level to it. It's sports entertainment. At the end of the day, it's not just full-fledged sports. I think there is some sort of fixing in everything. I mean, you could say that about the NHL too, with the draft or whatever you want to say. I'm not saying it was completely rigged.
What'd you think about the halftime show?
I thought Usher was pretty. Like, I thought it was pretty cool. A huge fan of Usher. I used to listen to him when I was younger, when he was popular. But I think like him bringing Lil Jon and Ludacris out was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
I had heard Justin Bieber was supposed to come out. I thought that would have been cool personally, just because we watched them two, like, I don't know, kind of take over the world for that little stint of time back in like what, 2012, 2010.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it would have been sweet if they had Justin Bieber out there, but yeah, it was I don't know. The Super Bowl, it was a mid Super Bowl. I don't think it was that bad. It was a decent game. I think there's some aspects that could have been better. I didn't think the commercials were that good. To be honest.
Ever since they started releasing commercials before they actually aired, that's when it ruined. Like that whole Creed one with the Paramount Plus with what's it called? Hey Arnold getting thrown at the side of the cliff. Like that was a Super Bowl commercial, but they leaked it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just kind of dumb that they did that. Like it just takes away the whoa factor, I guess. But I don't know. We're in a new day and age, so.
Dude, what I'm excited for now is it's the time for hockey in the NHL. Oh, yeah. Like shit's starting to ramp up. We're getting closer to the trade deadline. We're past the All-Star break. NFL season's done. College football season's done. I mean, the NBA is right there with you, with the NHL too. Yeah. But I think the NBA is a little bit better this year.
Yeah.
With the competition and kind of, there's no like Golden State or, you know, it's not like the Lakers are going to, you know, sweep house in the playoffs. I feel like a lot of the time the NBA is like that, but yeah, I'm excited for the postseason for both of those leagues, but specifically hockey because NHL playoffs, nothing beats that.
Yeah, no, nothing at all. I mean, you could say this Super Bowl is awesome to watch, which it is. It's a fun time. You get to gather all around, but at the end of the day, it's one game. And I don't know. I mean, that's the whole point of football. It's one game, and you know, you got to come prepared. You got 2 weeks to prepare for this one game, which is a cool aspect of the sport. And I think that adds to why it's so popular because you don't have to watch all 82 games. You can watch every single football game nowadays, especially. You can catch every single game by paying what, $200-$300 for Red Zone.
Yeah,
you can watch every single game. You could buy the MLB package and still never catch every single game unless you're some loser who sits at home all day watching baseball. But even then, like, I mean, same with hockey. There's no way you can watch every single game.
Yeah.
I mean, there is, but you're not going to get it's so much easier to watch every football game than it is hockey, basketball, or baseball. And I think that's why football dominates. It's Sunday's its biggest, you know, Sunday is for football. Saturday is college football. Monday is NFL football. Thursday is NFL football. Like, that only leaves us with so many time left. But right now, the NHL can capitalize, and I feel like this league has been drama-filled enough that we could not. I don't think we're going to overtake basketball anytime within the next couple of years. But with the way basketball has just been, I feel like, I don't know, some of their marketing stuff, they're just not doing a whole lot. I think NHL needs to capitalize on that and push this sport because people do like it. I mean, everyone, you always ask, like, oh, what's the best sport to see live? Everyone always says hockey, unless they haven't been to a game. If they haven't been to a game, then they won't say it. But, I mean, I don't know. I love this sport, so I want more people to love it, but it's the way it goes.
Hands down the best sport to watch, play.
Yeah. Yep.
Everything. Fall.
Not biased at all, by the way, but
not biased at all.
Yeah. Enough of the football, basketball talk. We're gonna get back to hockey. So this past week, a little bit slower in the news. Hasn't been as drama filled as it has been the past, I feel like, 2 months.
I know. I feel like this past week's been like nothing. It feels like nothing, even though it's kind of a regular week and stuff, but I mean, compared to weeks before, holy crap. I mean, not as much drama, at least. But we do have some good headlines to talk about. We do. And in this first one of my favorite ones out of this week is the empty net slap shot on from the Ottawa Senators against the Maple Leafs. Obviously, Canadian rivalry. Who was it that hit that slap shot? Was it Ridley Gregg?
Ridley Gregg, okay.
And then Morgan Riley just demolished him.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I mean, I feel like there's kind of a code in the NHL. Probably shouldn't rip a slap shot from
not at all.
slot into an empty net.
No.
But I also think there's kind of a code in not even just the NHL, but hockey and sports in general. Like, you can't be demolishing someone like that after the play.
Yeah.
But
see, there's so many levels to this. Because like I do, one, I love the slap shot into the empty net against a Canadian rival. That's awesome. But you're going to get your ass kicked. Yeah, exactly. You're going to get your ass kicked, though. So I love what Morgan Riley did. And it was just like, hey, guess what? You're getting your ass kicked. I agree with that. I mean, there is some sort of code that these players have to follow, and especially respect-wise. But at the same time, I think it's awesome. So it's like, it's very, I don't know. I'm on both sides on this one.
I'm more on Ottawa's side just because I don't really like the Leafs.
Yeah.
And I think everyone knows that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't like the Leafs. But I will say, like, how badly that hit was after the play, it could have hurt Ridley Gregg. I mean, I don't think it did, but it was very high. Cross check to the head. I mean, holy shit. I mean, first of all, I mean, you're losing, I think it was 4-3. You get scored on an empty net. Take the L. You know, you can't, you should be, you're getting paid millions a year. I know you're competitive and stuff, but that makes you look bad, makes your team look bad. I know, like, hockey is definitely a sport where there's very high tensions, but for Morgan Riley to do that, you know, I mean, that's going to kind of tarnish his reputation around the league. I think it's going to kind of create some bad beef between Ottawa and Toronto, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just a little bit on Ottawa's side. I do see Morgan Riley's point. Yeah. But I mean, there could have been an injury right there. I think he's probably going to get suspended too. Mm-hmm. If anything, but I don't know. I mean, I think I've seen it before with some empty nets and kind of, you know, sometimes like after the whistle, players will shoot in the net and there's always a fight. But that was kind of a cheap shot. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I think Morgan Riley's definitely more in the wrong just with how he cross-checked him in the head versus if you had given him a little gut buster and just done it right there, it hurts a lot. But across the head, like, that's just dangerous play. So yeah, I don't know. It's not the best look for you, especially, you know, I mean, also Toronto, maybe you guys shouldn't go down to the fucking Ottawa Senators who are last in the division and like, don't lose a game to them. Like, come on. But that slap shot was also, wow. Like it wasn't like far away slap shot either. He was like right in front of the crease and just.
Oh, it was cocky. It was for sure
Yeah.
intentional, but
Yeah.
also I'm excited for the next Senators Leafs game. It's going to be electric.
Me too.
I mean, I've seen this with the Flames and Oilers. I've seen this with the Pens and Flyers. I mean, and even like the Bruins and Canadians. You know, I mean, there's certain rivalries where I wouldn't say Ottawa and Toronto is like the biggest rivalry, but I mean, shit. Now I think there's going to be some people watching their next game. So that's one thing. But I also think Morgan Riley did it out of frustration. I mean, the Leafs have been so inconsistent, not performing up to people's par this season.
That is true.
So I feel like that kind of also had to add into it. But I mean, either way, I just feel like that stuff's kind of shouldn't be in the game. It's kind of it's something that, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the drama and stuff, but just the fact that it was a very high hit, cross check to the head.
Yeah.
Still kind of on Ridley's side just because of that reason. I do see Morgan Riley's point, but he shouldn't have gone that hard because that could have seriously screwed someone up. And then
it could have.
Yeah, that would be not good if he did injure someone. And I think people would probably not be on his side as much if he did injure someone. So glad he didn't get injured.
Yeah, glad everyone's safe. I think he's looking at like a 6-game suspension right now, so it could be tough for the Leafs going forward. I mean, they've been very, sitting at that 3 spot this whole year. So hopefully it doesn't hurt them too. Well, actually, I do hope it hurts them a little bit because I don't like the Leafs either. But yeah, I mean, moral of the story, don't lose to the Senators and that won't happen to you. But moving on, Conor Bedard, we saw some headlines today, especially today's Monday that we're filming it. So if things have changed since then, don't come at us because it's Monday right now and we're filming. So we've had some grief in the past about things changing, but the tough part about news is that it changes every day. So as of right now, Bedsy is supposed to return to the lineup next week, supposedly, if everything goes according to plan. But the thing that shocked me was, well, one, we've talked about just his injury as a whole and how it's going to affect, the Calder standings, anything like that. And when I saw that he's coming back, I went and looked at the leaders for rookies. Bedard's still on top. This guy has, where is it? He's got 33 points, right? Still. Brock Faber, who's in second, who was my pick to take over for Bedard. He's got 51 games played and 31 points. Bedard only has 39 games played. So Faber
as a defenseman, though.
That
Faber is a defenseman, so
yes, it is tougher. And I think it's still going to be, I don't think it'll be a clean house unless Bedard comes back and is scoring a point per game. He had 33 points in 39 games, which is pretty good. But I think it's still crazy that he's still on top.
100%. I'm surprised no one surpassed him, to be honest.
Yeah. I think his return is also very soon too. I don't think that this is a really not quick return, but he's kind of on track because he has missed, I think, 6 weeks now. And I know a little bit before the All-Star game, they had said he was going to be out another 6 weeks, but that could have just been precaution or whatever. But he was supposed to be he's been practicing, but now he's going to be, he's not going to be wearing the no contact jersey anymore, which will be good. So we'll see how that pans out. But do you think Conor Bedard then is still a lock at Calder if he's coming back, still on top?
I think if he comes back next week and he's playing at his level he was playing before, I think he's a lock, 100%. I am curious to see his timetable and when the Hawks do return him. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, we've never seen him come off an injury.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be playing with a bubble or cage, which might make him better because he's played pretty good with the cage and bubble before. But yeah, I think if he's coming back in the next 2 weeks, I'd give it the next 2 weeks. If he's within the next 2 weeks and comes back, he will win Calder. I mean, he's just so good. He's a step above all these other rookies.
Yeah.
I know my homie Connor Zary, I was really rooting for him to get Calder, and Brock Faber is probably the next second place next up, which is going to be kind of in Brock Faber's wheelhouse to kind of, get to Bedard's level and make a case for himself for the Calder because, like I said before, I mean, he's a defenseman. He's not going to be the front and center of the team like Conor Bedard is of the Hawks, so that's another aspect of it. I mean, the Wild have plenty of good players. They got Zuccarello, they got Kaprizov, Marc-Andre Fleury, big names that have been in the NHL for a minute. So that's another thing about Brock Faber. I feel like he kind of flies on the radar for a lot of people in terms of this. I mean, I do know the hockey world knows that he's one of the favorites, but it's going to be, I think, if he comes back in the next 2 weeks, he should win Calder. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. But if it does last, say, until March, I think it's still anyone's to win. But we're going to need a big, I feel like Bedard went out and a lot of the rookies stopped scoring as much.
Yeah.
So we're going to need one of them to step up. And
yeah, they weren't, I feel like they were they weren't too far off of him. But, I mean, I guess looking at Brock Faber, he's got 51 games played versus Bedard's 39. So he's got, 12 games on him?
Yeah.
Brock does. Which, I mean, obviously, I don't think these rookies are going to go out and score a point per game besides Bedard. He's the only one that I could see coming out and scoring a point per game. So it's not like I guess I thought Bedard was just going to miss more. So we'll see. I mean, again, this could change. He could be out of the lineup, or he might take another month. We don't know. It is all up in the air. So I guess we'll see. But another, I don't know if we've actually talked about this guy. Well, we have a little bit. Alexander Ovechkin. He, in the last 5 games, has had a goal every single game. Again, this is Monday. So if anything's changed till then, that's why. But before that, he had, what was it? I think I wrote it down. Before he had 43 games played and only 8 goals from Alexander Ovechkin, which is definitely one of his slowest starts, if not the slowest start he's ever had. But 5 goals, 5 games. I mean, do you think he's back? Do you think he's going to maybe not keep that up a goal per game, but do you think he's the second half of the season? Do you think he's going to have more than 8 goals?
Yeah, 100%. I think that, he's on pace for 21 goals right now. I think he could crack that 30 mark if he keeps this up.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to see if he does, because, 5 goals, 5 games, that's more like Ovi. The Ovi everyone knows.
Yeah.
I do think he's back. I think it maybe he had to shake off the rust a little bit. I mean, this guy is old. He's old for an NHL player. I'm going to say he's 38, 39.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I would say he's back. I hope he's back too. I know the Capitals are struggling a little bit this year. But I mean, holy shit, 21 goals projected. I mean, that's the lowest he'll ever have in his career. It worries me because I'm like, oh my God, is this the end of Ovi? Like, is he degrading? Like, oh my gosh, I think everyone wants to see him beat Gretzky's goal record. But I think that he can crack. If he can crack 30, he's back. He's still at where he is.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get to that 25 mark, I think there's a little worry for the Capitals and just the hockey world in general if he is going to make it, because that's a huge drop off from, I think, the year before. Last year he scored 42 goals. So that's a pretty big drop off. But what do you think? Do you think Ovi's back?
I think, I think he's, like you said, just had a slow start. And I think if he cracks 30, like you said, I think it's a successful season after having that slow of a start, or at least, to keep chugging. So let's see, right now he's at 13 goals. If he pots another 17, 16 goals, he's going to be at, 835 plus 16. What is that? I need Zach. Jesus. 851? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll say it, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just say 851 for example, right? 851, and he's got to get to 894 to tie Gretzky. So he's going to need another 40-goal season the next year. He's going to be 39. I think this season's really gonna show because nowadays, he could, who knows, he could be playing till he's 41, 42. And it's not that he doesn't need to be putting up 40 goals to be playing in the NHL. He's Alexander Ovechkin. He can play for as long as he wants, like Yager did.
That is his ability, though. Like, that's Ovechkin's ability, is like goal scoring. It always has been.
Yeah,
for the most part. Like, don't get me wrong, he's had some excellent seasons where he has a lot of assists. Yeah. But like that's his like thing, is scoring goals. So it's like if he starts degrading in that aspect, I have a little bit of a worry. But I do think he's going to really strive to get that. I think he wants to get that. So I think he will still achieve Gretzky's record, but yeah, it wasn't looking too hot for him this season. But I think he's shaking the rust off a little bit more. Get him a few empty netters here and there. Mm-hmm. Get some OB power play goals. Yeah, I think we could see him at least getting to that 30 goal mark, and I think he's going to be good. And yeah, I think 4 more seasons, 20 to 35 goals. I mean, he's got that in the book. So as long as injuries don't drag him down too much, I think he's got it.
Yeah, I do too. I think, when do you think he's going to break Gretzky's record? What year?
I'm going to say 2026, early 2026.
Okay. Like around this time, 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's going to be what? So, 50 goals away. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say early 2026. We'll say February 11th.
Okay. Right on the date.
2026.
All right. We'll see it. We'll see. How old was Gretzky when he retired?
I want to say his 18th or 19th season. So he was
38.
He wasn't too old.
No. Obviously that's a different era, and I think nowadays with the way these NHL players take care of their bodies and athletes in general. You can look at LeBron James right now, who's 37, around the same age. And he's still an athletic motherfucker for 38, So these athletes definitely take care of their bodies a lot better. I don't know if you've seen all these interviews with Gretzky, especially more recently. And he's like, man, I was eating McDonald's before games. Yeah,
100%. I know Gretzky's been all around the podcast lately.
Yeah.
Media.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see. He's I feel like he was pretty, not sheltered, but we didn't hear a whole lot from him, especially in the 2000s. I feel like when I was growing up, he was a coach for the Coyotes, but that didn't ever turn out. And now that he's on TNT with Biz and stuff, I feel like it's been awesome to see him.
It's so awesome to see Gretzky.
Yeah. So that's been cool. But so what was I saying about that? So Gretzky was 38 when he got that record, or at least set that record. So in a sense, obviously Gretzky's always going to be the GOAT, even if Ovi passes him. But that kind of gives Gretzky that little, hey, you know what? I was 38. This guy beat me when he was 40. So gives him that extra little thing.
Yeah, until Austin Matthews catches up.
That too. We could see that soon. We don't know. But yeah, different Matthew, now that you say that. But on the next topic, Matthew Tkachuk, this season, I feel like he has definitely stepped back a bit, at least just in terms of production. Obviously, after the last playoff performance he had, he was on track to be, he already is a superstar, but he was definitely, especially in the media, he was a big talk. He was on NBA TNT promoting the NHL playoffs, which I thought was awesome. But now, in the last, before January 1st, he had 36 games played and 27 points. But
which isn't that bad?
No, it's not.
To be fair,
no.
That's not incredibly bad.
It's not up to his standard though.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, 36 games, 27 points. That's less than a point per game, which again isn't bad at all. He's not he's fallen off at all.
61 points per year at that pace, which is not Tkachuk's standard.
No,
Don't get me wrong.
Not for someone that's getting paid. What's he getting paid? $8 a year? $8 mil?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 or 9.
Yeah. For the Panthers, you don't want that from your $8 mil a year player. But in the last 15 games, he has also had, since January 1st, 15 games, he's had 27 points. So he's kind of flipped the script a bit. He didn't make the All-Star game this year, which I was kind of disappointed just to not see him there, because I thought last year with him and Brady was awesome to see.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got to give it to Rhino, Sam Reinhart, who was or is still lighting up the league in terms of a player, especially at his age and caliber. Like, I don't know, he was always just kind of floating by. Good player.
Yeah, I think Reinhart has 39 goals. That's
does.
Fucking crazy.
He's 3 goals behind Austin Matthews, who everyone's raving about, who we've raved about. Yeah. So obviously, if a teammate is like that, he's going to go to the All-Star game before you. But it is good to see him, Tkachuk, be, back to that level. I know you as a Flames fan, even though he's gone, love him. I as a player, I love his game. His dad was awesome. I just like his style of play where he's still superstar, great player, but he also gets in the other team's head, which I think is funny.
Oh, definitely, dude. I mean,
the playoffs solidified that. But even his time in Calgary, he was awesome.
I miss Tkachuk so much, man. Like it's tough, but he's been lighting it up since January 1st. Yeah. I mean, 27 points in 15 games. That sounds a lot more like Tkachuk and what the Panthers traded for. And it sucks, man. I mean, every single day goes by, Calgary Flames fans miss him more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's tough that we have Jonathan Huberdeau in replacement, but Jonathan Huberdeau is playing a little bit better since Kuzmenko's got traded there, so that's on the up and up. They actually had a 4-game win streak until it got broken by the damn Rangers tonight. Sucks, but that's my side note for the Flames. Always got to give a side note for the Flames. Yep. But going back to Tkachuk, man, I'm excited to see what he does for the rest of the season, but let alone the playoffs is going to be sweet because the Panthers are sitting pretty good. I think they're second in their division right now. So
they are not right behind, but they're behind Boston only by a couple points. So, I mean, I'm excited for playoffs, especially Matthew in the playoffs. I think, I don't know, some play we'll see this year, I guess, if he turns it on again, and I don't know if he's able to even come close to what he did last year with the Panthers.
That's crazy.
I think we've got ourselves a new, just playoff persona, I guess, of him. So we'll see how that goes. But I think the Panthers definitely are setting up well, especially with this late season push. And, Sam Reinhart is doing well, and now Tkachuk is doing well. Boston, if I were you, I'd be afraid.
Something I'm curious about, which I just thought of, I mean, we're mentioning Reinhart and Matthews. With Reinhart's got 39 goals, Matthews got 42. How many 50-goal scorers are we going to get in the league? Because, I mean, we got Kucherov with 33, Pastrnak with 33, McKinnon with 32. I mean, those are pretty high totals. The next 3 players after that are pretty high totals. I'm sure Reinhart and Matthews are going to get no problem getting to 50, but I think we might have five plus 50-goal scorers this year.
Yeah,
I think that's totally doable, and that would be nuts. In this day and age to have that.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, McDavid overshadowed a lot of people last year. He had 64 goals.
Yeah.
And I think Pasta was right there with 60 or 59. Pasta wasn't that far off in terms of goal. I think, what did Matthews have? I think he had 40. I think Tage Thompson had, if not 50, he had 49 last year. So, I mean, I think, again, we're definitely in the golden age of hockey. And, I mean, this whole term of golden age, which I've been, thinking about a lot just in terms of all the sports. They talk about that with basketball too. This is the golden age. I think it's also just how these sports are all progressing. I mean, you could say I don't know when the other one before would be, but especially for hockey, like if you put right now is the golden age, what would you say the golden age before that was? The 80s with Gretzky?
Yeah, I'd probably say the 80s, Gretzky, Lemieux. I mean, that's a difficult question.
It's tough.
I feel like the 80s though, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like that was such a transformative time for hockey in general, just in terms of speed. And I think there's a lot of players that really were separated from others in the 80s and kind of excelled the game. I don't know, man. Though I don't know. It's hard because I mean I could say the 70s too. I could say the 90s. I think the 2000s can't really say that because of the lockout was during then, and I just feel like the lockout changed so much with the NHL.
Yeah,
it's kind of transformative.
The 2010s
period,
were.
So.
I mean, think of the stars that. I mean, Sidney Crosby's still a star now, but that was a lot of time when Sid and Ovi was doing crazy things. So I mean, it's hard. I think we're gonna see after all these players retire now that are in their like, I think it's only gonna get better from here. Like that's truly what I think sports. You can look back at 1950s hockey, 1950s basketball, and be like, damn, this game has changed a lot. And I'm curious to see in another 40, 30 years, we're gonna be old heads looking back and being like, damn, like these kids nowadays are. I don't even know what the future holds because I feel like it's already as good as it can get. But who knows? Maybe all of them are going to be freaking as fast as McDavid, which I feel like you're going to have to be. But yeah, I guess we'll see. The only time will tell with that one. But I don't know. I've been thinking about like that whole golden age term and how it's thrown around. I just think the game just keeps getting on better, which is a good thing for sports. You know, you don't want the same old thing every year.
Yeah. No, I think we're definitely in I mean, the NHL has, in terms of media too, I think the media deals that the NHL have structured around have really increased.
Yeah.
In viewership, but the cap space is increasing. Cap space. I don't know if that's the right term, but that cap's going up every year.
Yeah.
So that shows growth in the league, but we also got expansion teams happening. I mean, we got a bunch of expansion talks now after the whole Salt Lake thing went down. Or maybe relocation. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I know Gary, I think at the All-Star game was talking about Atlanta again. And he was like, maybe Atlanta, maybe not Atlanta. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like we've talked about Atlanta. Yeah. They've already tried it twice, 3 times. Is it going to work? I don't know. I feel like they're going to need a decent roster and a decent team because the Thrashers never had a good team. The Atlanta Flames never had a good team. I think they're going to need a good team, kind of like a Vegas Knights run. I don't know if they're going to make the Stanley Cup or anything, but I think I don't even know if the Thrashers won a single round in the playoffs ever. They did have some good players like Ilya Kovalchuk, Dustin Byfuglien. They had Evander Kane even like in his rookie years, but
Danny Heatley before he.
Yeah, I think Atlanta is going to have to really have something that stands out for them to have success again, whether it's like a prolific player like McDavid, Crosby, Bedard, or they're going to have team success because I think if they don't have that, it's just going to be another repeat.
Yeah, and I remember in Gary Bettman's speech at the All-Star game, or at least the press conference thing, when he was talking about Atlanta, and I've mentioned this, he was talking about seeing the success and how the Braves have done since they've moved, because the Braves used to sit right in downtown Atlanta. Wasn't, Atlanta, I don't know if you've ever been, but the traffic there fucking blows. To get down there would suck. But Truist Park, where the Braves play, are outside of Atlanta, more in the suburbs. So if they try out there and
it's a sick park too. I've been there.
It is
such a good time.
Yeah. Truist Park, and they've got the whole it's like a city basically in that little park. They've got shops, restaurants, all that stuff. They pop an NHL stadium out there too. I mean, shit, couldn't hurt. And I think, I mean, it's to grow the game, you got to get in those places that hockey's not popular. And I'm sorry, Canada, but you guys all love hockey, and I know that they bitch and complain about not having NHL teams, but those fuckers care so much about their junior hockey teams, which I do love. I love that. They pack those barns, burn them down.
I still think Quebec City should have a team.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
but I think the biggest thing that's holding back the Canadian team or Quebec City is just the economy. I just think Canadian dollar is a lot weaker than the US dollar. There's a lot less people up there. I know hockey's so extremely popular up there. It's the nation's sport, but I just feel like in terms of population wise, profitability, I mean these other markets in the US are just so much more sought after and sought after by players. You know, I don't think I think there's only a handful of players that truly want to play in Quebec City.
Yeah.
But I think you could say the same for Arizona.
That's true. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of markets that, you know, kind of would be like, well, it's kind of, I mean, Atlanta too, you know, I think the biggest thing that's holding Canadian teams back is the economy, like you said. And a lot of those players like Willie Nylander, who just signed a, 11.5 mil a year deal, is making after taxes as much as Matthew Tkachuk is, who signed an $8 million a year contract. So
no state tax in Florida.
Yeah. You kind of see why these players don't want to play for these Canadian teams, especially their dollar just doesn't fly as much. Some of them love playing there, and I love that they do that. But I think as Gary Bettman, with his money eyes, I don't know that he's going to greenlight that Quebec City team, but we will see.
Yeah. Going back to the Flames, I think the Flames need to build Russian and Canadian roster. No Americans, no American players.
Yeah. No, those American players are definitely, I mean, they understand. About why. So that's a good, what's it called? Strategy though. To just put Russian and Canadian. They don't know any difference, right?
Yeah. I hope that they start doing that because we've got
the Americans just leave you guys. Yeah.
By Tkachuk and Gaudreau. Maybe not by Tkachuk as much, but still is painful to this day.
Yeah. No, that's funny. All right. Our last segment here. Now that the trade deadline is slowly but surely approaching us, trade deadline is March 8th. It's now February 12th. We're going to kind of talk about this probably until that trade deadline, because I'm sure the rumors we're going to start getting here in the next couple of, weeks are going to be, centered around that trade deadline, because I feel like last year we had a pretty eventful trade deadline. I mean, Patrick Kane getting dealt away from the Chicago Blackhawks, his home team. Who else was a big one? Ryan O'Reilly going to Toronto. We had some interesting. Tarasenko too. I mean, but now all those players are on different teams, which is actually crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
Those 100% all left those teams.
Yeah. But so I guess just starting out, I feel like the biggest free agent that a lot of people have been talking about, and the Pens have no cap space, is Jake Guentzel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are the Penguins going to split up from like their Malkin and Crosby duo? I mean, signing Carlson is that really hurt their cap space too.
Yeah.
And it left no room for Jake Guentzel. So my pick is, I think he's going to get traded. I don't think the Pens have enough cap space. I think he's going to get traded to the Minnesota Wild. And I think that the Pens are going to get either lots of draft picks or prospects. I will say this because Jake Guentzel has Minnesota roots, and I feel like that's the one location he could potentially go to. I do think the Wild have lots of good players that could trade up for him too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like the Minnesota Wild's window to win is going to be in the next 5 years or so, with Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Matt Boldy, Brock Faber. They're going to start to be creeping into their primes. So I really, and if you add Jake Guentzel to that, that's a pretty star-studded roster, and I feel like the Minnesota Wild's kind of lacking on offense. So I feel like that's kind of a win-win for both the Pens and the Wild. And obviously, I feel like a lot of people always are biased towards where a player's from, and he's going to get traded there. But I just feel like the state of hockey would love to have Guentzel back, and I think vice versa too.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Guentzel's
I
won cups there too for the Pens, so I feel like
that is
it's
true.
nothing too sour. And
Yeah,
I mean, the Pens kind of screwed him over by signing Karlsson, in my opinion.
yeah.
So
No, that is true. I don't think it'd be a sour taste. I mean, I think it'd be a farewell, probably a happy farewell. I think honestly, Minnesota is probably the best place for him to go. Just in terms of like looking around the league and like what teams need. And especially like you want a player like him to be successful and on a successful team. I think the Penguins, I mean, where are they sitting right now in the standings? Do you know?
they're not standing too hot necessarily. I think that they're maybe kind of a fringe playoff team. Yeah, I mean they're only 7 points behind Detroit for that second wild card spot, so they could still kind of be in contention. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see those wild card spots go up
Yeah.
because I mean the Leafs got 60 points, the Red Wings have 60 points, and then there's like 4 or 5 teams within 10 points of those two teams in the wild card. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I do think the Pens are going to. I wouldn't be surprised if they move him if they keep kind of not having a good season by trade deadline, because there's a chance he might walk, and I don't think the Pens want to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see where they place him. And I mean, Minnesota's not doing too good, but they're only 7 points out of the playoffs as well. But I think that would be more of a long term move, kind of
Yeah.
maybe even a sign and trade and sign situation. But yeah, that's my take for Jake Guentzel. What do you think for him?
Yeah. No, like I said, I think Minnesota's a good spot for him. I think the Penguins need to, as sad as it is, kind of clean house a bit. I mean, thank you personally as a Sharks fan for taking Carlson's salary off our hands. I do appreciate that. And I get what they're doing. They're kind of, I think, just putting all the chips in and, rolling the dice. And I mean, I think if they get a playoff spot, I don't know. I mean, it's not totally crazy that they can make a run with the amount of talent they do have,
Mm-hmm.
or at least experience that they have. But I don't know. I mean, I think you kind of, you're going to lose Jake Guentzel either way. I don't think that they're going to be able to re-sign him just with money. So, I mean, I think getting rid of him and getting some draft picks in return. And I think Minnesota, like you said, are in their prime, need to capitalize on that, and can kind of get away with getting rid of some of those future picks to solidify someone like Jake Guentzel on their team. I think is a good spot. So, up next though, Chris Tanev. If you want to take the lead on that.
Yeah, 100%. I
Just
mean,
what
I
you've
think
looked
he's
into.
probably one of the most prolific names getting thrown out there right now. It's obviously coming up to expiring contract at the end of this year for the Flames. A lot of Flames defensemen are in that conversation with Hanifin too. Lindholm just got traded. I think the Flames are going to be some sellers upcoming,
Yeah.
but they do have some very good pieces to trade away. I think Hanifin would probably get a little bit more of a return than Chris Tanev just because Hanifin's age, being I think he was 28 or 29. But Tanev, my prediction, he's going to get traded, and he's going to the Leafs. That's my prediction, unless the Flames do very good up until the trade deadline and they actually do have a chance to make a deep run. I think it would be stupid for the Flames not to trade away either Hanifin or Tanev. But that's my take on that. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, the Flames trying to get rid of their D, and I mean, we talked about this last week, just kind of how the Flames need to take that, I don't know, reset approach a bit more and kind of lean into the rebuild. I don't really have a leading team that I think Chris Tanev could fit well with. Personally, from what you've written down, I like to see him maybe with the Devils. They could use some help, at least right now. And I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
the Devils
that's another
have
team that's getting thrown around for him. So.
Yeah. I think the Devils, I mean, they don't have their Stanley Cup roster right now. I don't think that they're going to, I mean, I think if they can make a couple deep runs for the next 2 years, they can kind of get experience, but also get some players to want to play for them. So I think Chris Tanev would be a good addition for the Devils.
100%. And then it looks like last on our list. We'll be kind of doing this too in our next episodes, kind of leading up to the trade deadline.
Yeah,
because I'm sure there's going to be lots of players and rumors and all sorts of news breaking. But Vlad Tarasenko is our last player. He's on a 1-year deal with the Senators right now, and I think this year didn't go as planned for the Senators. I think their management and players thought they were going to have a lot better of a year. I do think Vlad Tarasenko is going to get moved. So all three of these players that we're talking about today are going to get moved. But if anyone, I'd probably say I could see him going to the Kings. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's going to have to be some sort of return, cap space retained. I think the Kings just make sense. I think they would love to have more scoring, more offensive depth. They've been kind of struggling the past month and a half. So I think if they did have a roster shakeup, I think that's going to be beneficial. I think they already replaced their coach recently. But with the other teams that I think are in contention, the Stars and Knights, I think that there's going to be a high-profile team that's going to get Tarasenko, and he's going to add to their scoring. So I think out of all those teams, though, the LA Kings need scoring. I think they need a shakeup, even with some of their players on their roster. So I could see Vlad Tarasenko going to that. Kings are totally in a playoff spot, and I think they'll make the playoffs. So that's my take on Tarasenko, but I don't know. Do you see Tarasenko getting moved?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, like we said a little bit earlier, how I think Ottawa, clearly this season did not go well for them and what they've been looking for.
Besides
I really don't. Yeah, besides the other night, that was funny. But I don't know. I mean, personally, I really don't know what the Ottawa Senators should do. Do they lean towards a rebuild and get rid of some of these players that they've, I don't know, like kind of developed the last couple? I mean, Brady Tkachuk's 25. I don't think you get rid of him necessarily. He's your captain.
No, you can't.
Especially not this year.
I don't think they do a rebuild, but I think moving Tarasenko for an asset or maybe a prospect would not be a bad move and wouldn't just totally reset them into a rebuild. But I just feel like Tarasenko's at that age where it's like he wants to win. He wants to win another cup again. True. So I feel like it's going to kind of come from his party that he wants to part ways, because I think if they don't trade him, he's going to go to another team in the offseason. I don't really see him re-signing with the Senators. So
I think I don't like the Kings, so I don't know if I could put him on the Kings. Even if the Sharks aren't doing well this year, I still don't want to see them succeed. So what I do want, though, is for Joe Pavelski to have a Stanley Cup ring. So I think Tarasenko should go to the Stars. I feel like that is a really good fit for him.
Yeah.
For Tarasenko. I mean, Tarasenko's definitely up there in age. But I mean, I think he could still be a good second, maybe third line player on that Stars roster. I mean, the Stars have a lot of offense. They could probably use some defense, but I mean, that Stars team, I mean, they got Jake Ottinger, really good goaltender. Their defense isn't horrible. But adding Tarasenko as a piece, as long as you don't give up too much as the Stars, because I mean, with the Stars, you're kind of in this weird bubble where, I mean, they've got maybe, I was going to say 5 years, but I mean, they've got some good young players that can definitely keep them afloat for longer than that. So it's tough to say. But I don't think the Senators should keep Tarasenko at all. Like you said, he's in a spot where he wants to win. Keep playing at a high level. And I just don't think Ottawa is the place for him. I know he signed there in the offseason. I think he personally should have stayed with the Rangers, but I don't know. We'll see where he goes, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough right now. We just don't know too much, but definitely as the weeks go on until, I mean, pretty much a month from now will be the trade deadline. I know we're going to have some stuff to talk about, so we'll definitely just keep an eye out for that rumor mill and just see what's churning. But Do you have anything you want to say, Galli, to our listeners before we head out of here?
No, go Flames per usual. Thanks for listening. Hockey's ramping up now. It's starting to get into, kind of a playoff push for a lot of teams. So we're going to be seeing lots of great hockey, some intense hockey. But I'm also excited for, some college hockey to start ramping up and the Frozen Four to happen next month. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. And, Beanpot was recently. I know that was electric. But all of that I'm really excited for. And, it's going to be a sweet end of the season. This last half of the season is going to be kick-ass. I can't wait. There's still so many teams that could make the playoffs, so many teams that couldn't. And I think there's going to be lots of movement in the trade deadline, just the landscape of the NHL, how it is nowadays. But also, I think that, as we go on, it's going to be way closer games, and I think there's going to be a lot more fights and bullshit. So excited.
No,
I
agree. Yeah. I am so hyped for just these next couple months, and it's already, we get playoff hockey in like 2 months.
Yeah.
Holy literally. Shit. That just clicked, dude. That's insane.
Yeah.
Again, playoff hockey's, I hope everyone listening knows this, but I think it's the best sport playoff that there is. March Madness is pretty fucking fun. I will give it that. But NHL playoffs are just something else. So if it's anything like last season, I'll be happy. But yeah, guys, thank you for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, just a reminder, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music as well. And if you're over on one of those platforms, you can see our beautiful faces on YouTube as well if you want to catch all the video stuff. But yeah, we're gonna be pumping out some clips and stuff. Hope you guys have been liking those on Instagram. If you aren't following that, go check us out on all those platforms. Link is in the description there, whichever platform you're listening on. But yeah, we've got some good stuff ahead of us. We need to talk about June and start planning for that, because I think we've got some future stuff in the works. So we did say it on another podcast, but you guys got to go back and listen to it and find out what we're talking about. So, but other than that, keep your head up, and keep looking out for those trade rumors, because we will be talking about them. So until next time, Galli, we'll see you guys next week, and hope you guys have a great rest of your week.